Yes, bro. Yes,
Okay.
bro.
So you'll be able to put that on the screen, Prabhuji? Okay.
Yes,
So,
Senator.
yes. So good for you all to be here and come this morning. I'm very grateful to at least see your names and some smiling faces. I've gotten to meet so many new friends through Zoom, one of the blessings of the pandemic. I hope everybody is keeping healthy and well.
So can you see my screen?
Yes, everybody can see. Okay.
Yes.
Evam griheshva bharat abhirato. Evam griheshva abhirato. Vishayan vividhai sukhai.
Vishayan vividan vividai sukhai.
Sevamano na chatusyan. Ajyastokair ivanalaham.
Adyasto kairivanalaha.
We'll say the synonyms. I'll read them for you. Evam, in this way, griheshu, in household affairs, abhirata, always being engaged, vishayan, material paraphernalia, vividhai, with varieties of sukhai, happiness, sevamana, enjoying, na, not, sha, also, atushyat, satisfied him, ajya, stokai, by drops of fat, eva, like, analaha, of fire. In translation, in this way, Sobari Muni enjoyed sense gratification in the material world, but he was not at all satisfied, just as a fire never ceases blazing if constantly supplied with drops of fat. Report by Srila Prabhupada. Material desire is just like a blazing fire. If a fire is continually supplied with drops of fat, the fire will increase more and more and never be extinguished. Therefore, the policy of trying to satisfy material desires by catering to one's material demands will never be successful. In modern civilization, everyone is engaged in economic development, which is another way of constantly dropping fat into the material fire. The Western countries have reached the summit of material civilization, but people are still dissatisfied. Real satisfaction is Krishna consciousness. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 5:29, where Krishna says, Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam yadvamam shantim richati. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of every living entity, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. One must therefore take to Krishna consciousness and advance in Krishna consciousness by properly following the regulative principles. Then one can attain an eternal, blissful life in peace and knowledge. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So anyone notice anything special about this particular verse quoted in the purport this morning?
The peace formula.
Yes. It's just that today is also 5:29, that's all. Just
I'm
a little
sorry, bro.
coincidence. Okay. Okay. Mystical coincidence. Anyway, all right. So Bari Muni is.
Would you like to read the 49th purport also too? I'm sorry, I put the wrong verse up, I think.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. Thereafter, one day while Sobari Muni, who was expert in chanting mantras, was sitting in a secluded place, he thought to himself about the cause of his fall down, which was simply that he had associated himself with the sexual affairs of the fish. Purport. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that Sobari Muni had fallen from his austerity because of a Vaishnava aparad. The history is that when Garuda wanted to eat fish, Sobari Muni unnecessarily gave the fish shelter under his care. Because Garuda's plans for eating were disappointed, Sobari Muni certainly committed a great offense to a Vaishnava. Because of this Vaishnava aparad, an offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, Sobari Muni fell from his exalted position of mystic tapasya. One should not, therefore, impede the activities of a Vaishnava. This is the lesson we must learn from this incident concerning Sobari Muni. Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. In these verses, Srila Prabhupada is detailing the success of Sobari Muni in that he was able to see through the illusion that had prompted him to take part in material life. He had broken his austerities, he had given up his vows for this purpose of entering into the life of fish, that is, enjoying the same sort of pleasures that he saw the fishes enjoying. Srila Prabhupada quotes the verse, Bhoktaram yagya tapasa sarvaloka maheshwara suridam sarvabhutanam yadvamam shantim richjati. That happiness is not found other than understanding Krishna's supreme position. In this world, we all are born with an idea that we are the center of the universe. This is called the false ego. I have a little 6-month-old grandson who lives next door with his parents, my daughter and son-in-law. And it is so interesting to watch him each day growing and expanding his consciousness, and then feeling himself the center of everything. This is natural for parents. You know, the parents put in the great difficult trouble of conceiving and bearing and then caring for a child. And by nature, they become very doting and attentive to the child's every whim. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur described in his song Amara Jivana how in his embryonic life in the womb, he was remembering, Krishna, oh no, I've blown it. Here I am again, taking another birth. This time I promise to remember you. But then when he came out, everyone was caring for him, kichi kichi ku. Everyone was smiling and trying hard to please him. And so then he began to think, I am the center of creation, and this life is actually not so bad. Everything revolves around me, and what am I worried about? I will always have my loving parents to protect me. I will always be cared for by my loving relatives. I will always have everything provided for me. With this misunderstanding, the living entity grows into thinking. We all, in this world, we all come out thinking, okay, everything revolves around me. When one of Srila Prabhupada's early disciples was coming to visit, she was intoxicated and thinking, yes, I am causing everything to happen. So he asked her, can you come to my programs in the morning? And she said, he asked her rather, do you live near? And she said, oh yes, very near, although she lived an hour away. He said, then good, you can come to my class each morning. So in her intoxicated state, she was thinking, yes, I am in everything. I am everywhere. Everything revolves around me. That's an intoxicated example. But in another way, we are all in this intoxicated conception of life. As devotees, it manifests in more subtle ways. In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Kapila Dev gives an example of how devotional service can be performed in the modes of nature. How the devotee in the mode of passion thinks, oh, I'm going to be the best devotee in the history of ISKCON. I am competitive with others, and I'm going to chant more, and I'm going to serve more, and I'm going to be more pure, and everybody will look up to me. This is the passionate impetus for devotional service. It is devotional service, but it's tinted with passion. In the mode of ignorance, the devotee thinks, I don't need these other devotees. I just want to hear and chant, and I want people to just leave me alone, very separate. There's no sense of humility or community in that mode. Rather, one is just thinking about oneself. This is the influence of the mode of ignorance. In the mode of goodness, the devotee does everything that the devotee is supposed to do. But there's still the tint of the concept of I am so pure. I'm doing everything just right. There's no malice towards others. There's no separatism. But still there's this sense of I'm enjoying my Krishna consciousness. In all three modes, the devotee is tainted by this concept that my enjoyment is separate from Krishna's enjoyment. And this is the indication of our neophyte condition. We haven't really come to the point of understanding this verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam. Krishna is the bhokta. He is meant to enjoy everything. If Krishna is happy, I am happy. If Krishna is not happy, I'm not happy. This is the devotional service on the Shuddha Sattva platform, on the mode of purified goodness. The story is there about Narada Muni coming to see Krishna, and Krishna said, oh, I have a headache. And Narada said, what do you need? He said, only the dust from my devotees' feet will cure my headache. So Narada Muni said, I can't give you the dust from my feet. That would be such an offense. I would go to hell. Then please find some devotee who will do that. So he asked, and everyone said the same. The dust from my feet on Krishna's head, that would be a great offense. But when he came to the gopis, they said, Krishna has a headache. Krishna needs the dust from our feet. Here, take it. Take more. Take more. Narada Muni said, aren't you afraid of going to hell? To which the gopis replied, let us go to hell. Krishna has a headache. Krishna's pleasure is all that matters to us. So this is why the gopis' devotion is considered the highest. Ashlishyava padaratam panashtumam adarshanam marmahatam karotuva. I don't care how Krishna treats me. I don't care if Krishna handles me roughly by his embrace. He can even make me brokenhearted by not being present before me. This is the argument of the atheists always. If God exists, why doesn't he just reveal himself and put an end to all of the questions and all the drama? Why doesn't he just come and show himself, and then, okay, everybody will believe in him? And because he doesn't do it, therefore they say, he doesn't exist. Or if he does exist, he's either very negligent or not very intelligent concerning us. And therefore, it is more rational not to believe in him because he's not satisfying my desire or my curiosity to see him. So of course, this is a perfect example of the self-centeredness that I'm talking about this morning, that everything revolves around me. Therefore, God, you want me to believe in you, show yourself, and then I may do you the big favor of believing in you. No account of my attitude. What is my attitude towards God? What if I said to you, show yourself to me? I'm seeing on the screen this morning everybody's names, but only Suna's picture. So what if I said, I don't really believe you're there. You're probably doing something else, but just put your name up on class. Okay, all right. Now I believe in you. Now I believe you exist. So obviously I know you're there. And many's the times I'm listening on no video also. But my point is, the atheist looks at that as a proof that God doesn't exist because of their self-centeredness, because they think everything revolves around them. The gopis in their prayer express, or Radharani in her prayer expresses, I don't care if you don't show up. You may be present or not present. That makes no difference to me whatsoever. You are my worshipable Lord unconditionally. Mm. This is what it means to put Krishna in the center. Krishna may do anything. That isn't why I'm in Krishna consciousness. That isn't why I chant my rounds. That isn't why I read or hear or try to understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. It's not because I want something out of it. It's because I understand now that when Krishna is pleased, I am pleased. Nothing makes me happier in life than Krishna's pleasure. Just as the parents will go through so many austerities to take care of that little grandson of mine. But when he's happy, they are happy. And when he's unhappy, they drop everything and deal with it. This is out of love. You see. So in the same way, because the devotee actually wants to love Krishna, then the devotee will do anything for Krishna's pleasure. That is the stage beyond self-centeredness. It's the stage beyond envy, the enviousness of Krishna that is the root cause of our being in this position. You could say Sobari Muni was envious of the fish enjoying their copulation, and that envy drove him to abandon his ascetic life. Isn't that pretty much the point of advertising? All kinds of advertising is presenting some person enjoying some product. And then when we see, oh, this person is enjoying, then the envy in us drives us to get that product. I want to enjoy like this person is enjoying. Therefore, I will spend my money just to enjoy like this person. I don't want this person to be enjoying more than me. And then if we get some sort of opulence, then we want to flaunt it so that others will feel envious of us. It's like we don't like being envious of others enjoying, so therefore we want others to be envious of us so that they will also be similarly unhappy. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also describes this in one of his bhajans, that when I see others happy, I am unhappy. And when I see others unhappy, then I'm happy. This is the influence of envy that makes us feel like we are the center of everything. Our enjoyment is what's important. So of course, we can see this clearly in Sobari Muni's pastime or in just the life of the materialist, but how does it involve or affect us being devotees who are struggling to pass through the influence of the modes of nature? So the simple thing is this idea that I am the doer, that my progress in Krishna consciousness is based on my efforts. My effort has to be there. But what is the other thing that must be there for the devotee to be successful? We must have Krishna's mercy. Yes, I'm sure you all said that, but you're all muted. It's like Mother Yashoda was 2 fingers too short in her rope when she was trying to tie Krishna. So the Acharyas explain those 2 fingers represent our endeavor and Krishna's mercy. So our endeavor is a reflection of our ego. I am doing something. If our endeavor is separate from Krishna's mercy, that's false ego. But if our endeavor is coupled with Krishna's mercy and our understanding that we must have Krishna's mercy to be successful, then this is real ego. This is Jivara Swarupa Hoy Nitya Krishna Das. I am acting as a servant of Krishna. I'm acting, I'm giving my all, I'm doing everything I possibly can, knowing that only by Krishna's grace can I succeed. We would hear Srila Prabhupada make statements like this, right? Often. How his success was Krishna's mercy. His success was his Guru Maharaj's mercy. Always giving credit. And it might have sounded to us like a quaint expression of humility, but it was actually coming from a very deep place. Oh no, I'm not the doer. It is only possible because Krishna has made it possible. It is only possible because my spiritual master is petitioning Krishna on my behalf to please make this devotee's effort successful. Only by that, without the slightest sense of self-importance or self-sufficiency. I'm giving my all, but it's only possible to be successful if Krishna intervenes. That is the balanced mood of a devotee by which one overcomes the influence of the modes of nature. This is a very dependent position. It's a very subordinate position. To be thinking like this always, to be praying like this or feeling this way when we chant our rounds, that I am very incomplete, incompetent, hopeless, but Krishna, if he so desires, may help me. I am a dependent upon Krishna. You see how that rubs our false egos the wrong way. We don't like to be dependent on anyone. We don't like to be feel like we need anyone. We are proud. We are self-sufficient. But in fact, we're so frail and so hopeless. Only Krishna can make our endeavors meaningful and fruitful. If Krishna likes you, it said he gives you everything. But if Krishna loves you, he takes everything away. Why is that? Because we might ask, people in the material world endeavor and then they become successful and they get money and they get opulence and prestige. So that's their endeavor. But yes, Krishna is fulfilling their desire. Just like Sobari Muni had this non sequitur desire to, I want to enjoy like the fish. And Krishna fulfilled it in full. Krishna does that so that we'll come to the point of dependence, so that we'll come to the point of understanding this is not my actual enjoyment. Just as Sobari Muni fulfilled all of these desires and then came to this realization, that I am not happy. This has been such a loss for me, such a waste of my time. So when Krishna gives us opulence and he gives us success and fulfills our material desires, we should understand that this is his test, particularly for devotees. You remember when Sudama Vipra was asked by his wife to beg charity from Krishna. So he went, and he was so overtaken with love and Krishna's affectionate reception and so affectionate receipt of his tiny gift, his insignificant gift of chipped rice. He was just so blissful and overwhelmed that he completely forgot to ask Krishna for anything. So on his way home, he remembered. And for those of you who are married, particularly husbands, if your wife asks you to bring something from the store and you don't bring it, it is a very serious matter. So he was coming back having forgotten his mission. And he was thinking, Krishna must not have wanted me to have opulence because I would become attached. Krishna is so kind to me. So this is the mood of the devotee. Krishna may give me opulence if he desires, or he may not. Like Jayananda Prabhu, there's a story about Jayananda Prabhu, whose disappearance day we celebrated last week. I did many interviews with his friends just shortly after his disappearance many years ago, and one of his confidential friends told me this confidential pastime. Jayananda Prabhu had some inheritance due when he married. So he didn't want to marry, but the temple president wanted the money. So he said, please get married. So on his order, Keshava Prabhu, the temple president, Jayananda got married. And he married a very plain girl, and then just pretty much continued with his brahmachari life, exactly as he had been doing before. So naturally, his new wife was not satisfied with this arrangement, and she objected, and then eventually divorced him. And so when this happened, Jayananda Prabhu said, I was just so attached. Krishna could see I was so attached. He had to break this attachment. So in the same way, Sudama Brahman was feeling, I would have been so attached. Therefore, Krishna made me forget to ask. But then when he got home, of course, all this incredible opulence was there. His little hut had turned into a palace. His little patch of land had become lush gardens, and his wife came out dressed so opulently that he couldn't even recognize her. She recognized him, but he couldn't recognize her, and she was surrounded by maidservants. And so it took a few minutes for it to all sink in. And then his wife took him and showed him all the beautiful opulence of the palace. So what was Sudama's attitude? All right, now I can enjoy. No, he was thinking, oh, my Lord, he's so kind to me. He's entrusting this opulence to me so that I can use it in his service. So even in Srila Prabhupada's life, we see that he did not meet with success for so many years. He was living in poverty. It didn't faze him in the least. He just proceeded on and on each day. One of his friends said just before leaving for India, he was staying in Sumati Maharaj's Scindia steamship colony in Mumbai. And he would go out and sell books and go out and collect donations and seek support. And when he would come back very tired at the end of the day, this friend would ask him, so how was your day? And he would answer very neutrally, well, maybe Krishna will have something for me tomorrow. Something to that effect. He did not express discouragement. He did not feel that he had failed because he had put all of his energy in serving Krishna. The results are up to Krishna. This is the only way we can become free of the false ego of thinking ourselves the doer. Seeing the results are up to Krishna. Just as Krishna admonished Arjuna on the battlefield, Ma manusmara yudhyacha. Yes, you fight, but always think of me as you're fighting. So every day when we chant our japa, it's a great time to practice this consciousness that Krishna, I'm not the doer, you are the doer, I am dependent upon you. You make me successful or not as you desire. I'm going to give my heart to my service today, and the results are up to you. This is actually the position of surrender. We generally think of this term surrender in a somewhat negative light in the West. Surrender means you've been beaten. All right, I surrender. Now, as a surrendered person, now I have to do whatever you tell me. But when we enroll in a college class, we surrender to the professor. because we're going to get something from it. When we take a job, we surrender to the boss because we're going to take something from it. So we generally think about surrender in those terms. It's something we have to do in order to get something that we need. But surrender in Krishna consciousness is such a different thing altogether. What it really means, sharanam, sharanagati, it means to take shelter. It means to find a safe harbor in life. It means to have refuge. It means to trust. Surrendering to Krishna really means trusting Krishna. I work with young devotees here at Krishna House in Gainesville, and often I hear them say, these very, very sincere young men and women will say, I have this fault, I've got to work on it. I've got to work on it. But I try to explain to them, look, if we had the capacity to work out our problems, we would have solved them a long time ago. It's not in our power to solve them, to improve ourselves, to develop the qualities of a devotee. Even that consciousness, what does it reflect? It reflects this idea that I am the doer. Ostensibly, it's very sincere. I'm not pure enough to offer myself to Krishna. Therefore, I have to purify myself more so that I can offer myself to Krishna, because I really want to offer myself to Krishna. But you see how this reflects a lack of trust, a lack of really putting ourselves at Krishna's mercy. I am surrendering to Krishna, therefore I trust Krishna will take care of me. I am subordinate to Krishna. I trust that Krishna will protect me. I trust that Krishna will purify me. I trust that Krishna will do to me what I need to have done. Just as when we put ourselves at the in the care of an expert, trusted physician. Okay, you tell me what to do. I'll just follow your instruction because I want to get well. So in the same way, depending on Krishna is like that. I am entrusting myself to Krishna's care. I know that Krishna is the controller. I know that I am so tiny, although I'm thinking myself so important. I'm so insignificant. But Krishna is so kind that even an insignificant person like me, he is ready to care for, to love, to provide for. So we don't have to, Prabhupada admonishes, you don't have to ask God for your daily bread. I remember this in my upbringing. This was the Lord's Prayer. They taught us, give us this day our daily bread, forgive us our trespasses, lead us not into temptation. Whole shopping list of stuff, asking God for all these things. And then in Bhakti, it's so beautiful. We just ask God for service. We know that he's going to provide our daily bread. We know that he's going to help purify us. We know that he'll accept us if we put ourselves in that subordinate position. No matter what we've done in the past, makes no difference. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami masucha. I will relieve you from all past misdeeds. Don't worry. We need to put our trust in Krishna like that. Otherwise, these things of the world will become so attractive and we'll want to enjoy. We talk about, and I'll just conclude with this point, we talk about leaving the spiritual world. Leaving the spiritual world seems so difficult to fathom because you're so happy there. Why would you want to go? If everything's so blissful, why would you want to go? So it's not that we became malicious towards Krishna or critical of Krishna. We just had this passing thought. What would it be like to be Krishna? Everybody's serving Krishna. Krishna's the center of everything. Everyone is blissful. I wonder what it would be like to be Krishna. That's envy. And it's very innocuous, it's very innocent, but it's envy nonetheless. What would it be like to be Krishna? So 8,400,000 births later, we're still asking that question. What would it be like to be the center? So trusting Krishna again, slowly building up that trust. This is our path in bhakti that's so nice. It relieves us from all the anxieties that come with thinking ourselves responsible for every damn thing in our lives. It relieves us of that anxiety, and it places us in a kind of happiness that is otherwise inaccessible. So these are just the two of the initial effects of engaging in bhakti yoga. Even if we don't have sincere, deep trust yet in Krishna, even if we don't have trust in Krishna, if we act like we have trust in Krishna, in Vaidhi Bhakti, we still get the benefits. And over time, that trust and that love and that surrender deepens and grows richer and more full. This is the gift of Srila Prabhupada. This is the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the gift of the Acharyas. So thank you for allowing me to share these thoughts this morning in this beautiful passage of Srimad Bhagavatam. I'd like to invite anyone else to make comments or ask questions at this time.
Thank you
Hare
very much,
Krishna,
Kalakantha,
Prabhu.
for
You want to finish, Gosha?
No, Mother Gail, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, a couple of things. Well, first of all, thank you for addressing this negative connotation that we have for surrender. I'm always battling with that one. So I really appreciate your definition. I do have a couple of questions if time permits. One is, you were saying, I think, that Krishna showered Sudama with so much opulence because it was for him to use in Krishna's service. But what I've understood also is that he had some slight attachment or false pride in connection with his level of renunciation, and Krishna was like challenging that by dousing him with all of that opulence. So is that okay? Understand?
Well, yes, I've heard that also. It's a very subtle point, as an example of what I was mentioning about devotional service and the mode of goodness. Okay, now I am doing everything just right. And Krishna shakes things up sometimes. So it's awkward for us to find fault in the devotion of Sudama Brahman, right? But this is a reference point. That's very subtle, Brahminical pride, you could say. And Krishna's blessing was not the material opulence. It was just the enriching of his devotion that occurred as a result of his getting all the material opulence. So we may also have that response if we are blessed by Krishna. Okay, Krishna, this is your opulence. I remember when I was poor, I depended on you. Now I have money, I'm still depending on you. You gave me this money, you can take away this money. You gave me this opulence, you can take away this opulence. It doesn't faze my devotion to you. And again, we see Srila Prabhupada as the example that even when he had men and money, his devotion, his schedule never changed, his activities never changed. He was just the same as when he was impoverished and alone. His devotion was so intact, he was blissful in both situations. I hope that addresses your question.
Yeah, but it does remind me of another question that I had in this connection, that, how you were saying something like, I think maybe you were referring to non-devotees or maybe even devotees, when we do get, let's say we want a lot of money and we get it, is that, I think you might have been saying that maybe that's Krishna's way of showing us that, even when we get what we want, it doesn't bestow the happiness that we're looking for. So he gives us what we want so that we can understand that that's not actually what we want.
Yes, thank you. I forgot to complete that little aphorism. If Krishna likes you, he gives you everything. If he loves you, he takes everything away. Yes. Harishe Tadpanam Shanai. He says, the first installment of my mercy on my devotee is that I take away all his money, because then all of his friends and relatives reject him. Nobody wants an impoverished person. So,
yeah. Yeah, just one last thing, because I'm monopolizing the time, is, when you were describing devotees in the different modes, and you were describing one in the mode of ignorance. Now, the mode of ignorance I usually associate with, lethargy, inertia, these kinds of things. So I was intrigued by how you described the devotee in the mode of ignorance, not wanting to associate with other devotees. I mean, no matter which of the modes we're in, they're all tinged with ignorance. So I'm not sure how the devotee that you described in the mode of ignorance how is he, what about him was really in the, controlled by that mode? What is it about not wanting to associate? Because all the modes, like I said, they all have, the person you described in the mode of passion and goodness, they all have ignorance involved in there. So I don't know if you get my question.
Yes. This is in the third canto, I think 28th chapter, the teachings of Lord Kapila. So the word is used separatist, that is reflective of the mode of ignorance. This means that one is only concerned about one's own situation and well-being and doesn't really care about others. This is how the mode of ignorance manifests. It's still devotional service, but it's a little self-centered. You remember when the gopis heard Krishna's flute, they all came running, and they dropped everything and came running. Why? Because they wanted to get to Krishna first. They wanted to be the first ones to Krishna. They didn't really care about anybody else. They just wanted to get to Krishna. And then when they were all there together, they got a little proud. Okay, well, we're the most fortunate. Krishna's with us. And then Krishna left. Then later, when they came together in prayer and calling out for Krishna, he returned. And then what did he do? He manifested himself. So each one of them had Krishna to themselves. You see? So they had this desire, this separatist desire. And Krishna wasn't pleased with it. But when they came together and worked together, then Krishna fulfilled it for them. You see? So this goodness means that we come together and offer our service to Krishna without envy, without competition, without rejection of other devotees. That's very important. That's how we offer our service to Krishna.
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhu.
Okay. Other thoughts or comments?
I have a question, if that's okay. Do we have time? Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Radhika Prabhu. Yes, I have time, if you have time.
Sure. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for class. You were speaking, you gave the example of Jayananda Prabhu and this pastime. And I know he was so dear to Srila Prabhupada and he offered everything he had in service. But just in the example that you gave, and then sometimes we see it in day-to-day in our communities, that in this particular case, the attachment to Krishna is so strong and it's so, that's our focus, that maybe there wasn't consideration for the fact that another devotee was hurt in the process,
Yes.
in this case, wife. So how does Krishna accept that?
I'm very glad you pointed that out, because it is quite true. There are other examples from Jayananda Prabhu's life of his devotion exceeding the bounds of what would be considerate behavior. And this is not to, what's the word? Not to acknowledge, but not to approve of the action that he took. Yeah, but your point is very well taken. This girl was obviously hurt. and she wasn't respected, and she was treated in a very objective way, and not personally. So there's much of that in the fanaticism surrounding renunciation, where one's impact on other people is not considered. So it's a very fine line. And again, this is reflective of the modes of nature. If I renounce just because I want my spiritual life is important and yours doesn't matter. So this is the mode of ignorance, just like we were talking about with Gail here, this idea that no one else matters, only my devotion to Krishna matters. So this pastime could be construed like that. Certainly, it's reflective of the mode of ignorance. I don't care what this person thinks. And remember, this incentive was coming from the temple president saying, hey, we really want your money. And so Jayananda was just, basically following orders. Now, does that make his actions right? Well, no. But you see my point. It's, as we read in the second purport, it's very hard to evaluate the activities of other devotees. And it can lead to Vaishnava aparad. Even Prabhupada, what does he write here? One should not impede the activities of a Vaishnava, or it is Vaishnava aparad. So Garuda wanted to eat fish, which was very inconsiderate to the fish. And so Bari Muni was a big fan of the fish. So he admonished Garuda, don't eat them. But this was considered a Vaishnava aparad. So it's that Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra. It's very difficult to understand the activities of a devotee. What Jayananda could do, another man could not do as an offering to Krishna. You see. So I very much appreciate you bringing up that point, because the women in our movement have been so mistreated in the name of renunciation. They've been reduced to, just objects, and their feelings don't matter. And this is a great loss to our success in spreading Krishna consciousness. In Gainesville, when we realized this 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, we tried to reverse or go back to the way that Prabhupada was on 26 2nd Avenue before the saffron wave kind of enveloped our movement. Because that hasn't been successful in America, in North America, in preaching. But we're stuck in that time loop in the 70s. So taking it back to the 60s, then things really started to happen. And that was the characteristic of the 60s, that everyone was welcome and appreciated, regardless of their gender and regardless of their situation in life. That still works. It still attracts young people to Krishna. So I very much appreciate that point that you made.
Thank you.
So to Jayanananda's ex-wife, wherever you are, Hare Krishna. Whomever you are, wherever you are, I hope it didn't drive you from Krishna consciousness. Any other comments or thoughts?
Hi, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams. I really enjoyed your lecture, and there are a few things around surrender that I'm just processing, and I wish we had a little more time so I could formulate my thoughts to ask that. But I did have a question related to the verse, and just you touched a little bit upon it around offenses. I was very curious that I found it interesting that Sabara Muni offended Garuda. And so it's Vaishnava aparad, but yet he was able to perfect his life without having recognized or apologized to Garuda, at least to this date. And from the renditions that so far speakers have said, is just that Krishna revealed in his heart that, wow, he's not really happy with material opulence. So let me, I fell because it was Vaishnava aparad, but let me go back and perfect my life. But there was no making up for that offense. And in earlier, Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni, Vishnu made Durvasa Muni go back to Maharaj Ambarish and apologize for his offense. But here, it didn't seem like Sabari Muni needed to apologize for his offense, and so it seems inconsistent with what we learn about Vaishnava Aparad. Must apologize, and you can't, I guess, perfect your life without, I guess, making amends with your offense. So I was curious if you can comment on that. And then also, I was just curious, when maybe we'll get to it, but from our discussion so far and reading some of the purports to date, he was able to perfect his life as well as his wives. But he was a Muni, a yogi. So did they reach Brahmajyoti liberation, or did he change to bhakti and said devotional service and reached Goloka Vrindavan or Vaikuntha? So it's just interesting because I think one of the parts is back to Godhead, or maybe a speaker said that, but that's very specific. That seems unless he changed his process of austerity or whatever process he was taking, his result would be different.
Your name is
Athena.
I see, Athena Yoga. What?
Yes, just Athena. Sometimes I get lazy.
Okay. Okay, Athena, that was an absolutely brilliant question. Why did Durvasa Muni have to apologize, but Subari Muni didn't? One Muni on this side, one Muni on that side. What is this? First of all, we have to consider the extent of the offense. Durvasa Muni was actually trying to kill Maharaj Ambarish. So that a very, very profound and heavy aparad on his part. Whereas Subari Muni, his offense was considerably more innocent. He was just friends with the fish and didn't want Garuda to eat them. So the other thing is that Durvasa Muni did not have to suffer the result of his offense. The result of his offense would have been death, but by apologizing, he was able to avoid the wrath of the Sudarshan Chakra. Subari Muni, on the other hand, never apologized, as you correctly pointed out. So he underwent the effects of his offense, which was to fall from his exalted yogic position and engage in all kinds of secular activities in ordinary life. But then that led him to the realization that this was a mistake. And so you could say the apology wasn't necessary. He had already undergone the results of his offense. So from my point of view, that's how I understand these two different situations. The gravity of the offense, and then the fact that the offender underwent the results. Okay. As far as the other point, what was your question? Did he attain the spiritual world? Did he just return to his previous yogic perfection? My understanding is that no, he did attain the spiritual world. He actually accelerated. This whole episode furthered his spiritual advancement and his wives as well, so that they were completely successful in leaving the material world altogether. So there is no set pattern by which Krishna interacts with his devotee. He may give one devotee this kind of immediate admonition, such as Durvasa Muni got, or he may give it in a more subtle way, as Sobari Muni got. The beautiful thing about bhakti is that as we age, these unique reciprocations from Krishna become more and more manifest in our lives. And we see more and more how our particular relationship with Krishna unfolds. One of my godbrothers asked Srila Prabhupada, how long does it take to become purified when you start chanting? Prabhupada told him 40 years. So in Durvasa's case, it was very immediate because of the grave nature of the offense. But Subari Muni went through many years of material enjoyment before he realized it was a frustrating experience. So we may also very gradually come to understand what is beneficial and what is detrimental for our spiritual lives. All right, I hope that answers your question. Haribol. Athena?
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so any last comments or questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I wonder if I could just quickly follow up on your answer just now.
Okay. Anyone else object? Go right ahead then, Gail.
Yeah. Durvasa Muni, he had to suffer the way he did, and his example makes me think of, with Durvasa he was just trying to kill one person, but Indra was trying to kill a whole lot more, of the most exalted devotees. So, I don't know if I've heard of him having a comparable kind of admonition.
Well, again, the trajectory of each person's spiritual life is unique to them. So what applies to one person doesn't necessarily apply to another. Just as in the pharmacy, there are so many medications, and we might go through and randomly pick out this one or that one, but we have an expert physician guiding us, telling us exactly what is appropriate for us. Ultimately, this is Krishna who gives us exactly what we need. So in the case of Indra, he was trying to kill all the residents of Vrindavan because they did not offer him proper respect. And yet Krishna did not kill him. He didn't, he accepted his apology. Indra came and apologized. And so in his case, his offense was very quickly mitigated, and he quickly gained realization from it. So again, what is appropriate for one person is not for another. Indra is a highly elevated devotee, actually, whereas Durvasa and Sobari Muni were not. But Indra is already a Vaishnava. He just did not recognize Krishna. Plus, Krishna covered him for this purpose. You remember when Brahma stole the cowherd boys and put them in the cave, he came and apologized, but Krishna didn't even say a word. He just said, okay, you can go. But when Indra came and apologized, Krishna listened to him, and then he accepted his apology, and he spoke with him, and then he dismissed him. So he was much harsher on Brahma than Indra. And this is because Brahma was taking the devotees away from Krishna, but Indra brought them all together. And Krishna liked being with the devotees. So the nuances are limitless as far as how Krishna deals with devotees. Really, what is important for us is to understand, how is Krishna dealing with me? How is Krishna responding to my particular, what is Krishna trying to tell me by this particular test that I'm going through right now? And for that, we need Guru and Shastra and Sadhu. We need to triangulate and try to understand from all three sources how our particular, how reciprocation from Krishna is unfolding.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Haribol. Such a pleasure to see you all. Thank you very much for being here this morning.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Have a wonderful day.
Kalakantha Prabhu ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining.